So, Psalm chapter 1, as you guys know, I'll ask you to open up your Bible to the Psalm, and then any verses that I quote in reference to the Psalm will come up onto the board. But really just open up your Bible, and if you like to mark in it, that's a good thing to do too. I wanted to start by talking about songs, because I have a song lyric, and I'm going to play a game, and you guys have to just tell me if you know this song and who sings it. Now, just so that we can keep it fair, that entire back row and back there where they're going to play the song, they already know what it is. And I'm pretty sure Ken's going to be able to guess it like that. But let's see. We'll keep him out of there, out of it. But let's see if you guys can guess this song based on the lyrics. Here's how it goes. It says, "And now the end is here, and so I face that final curtain. My friend, I'll make it clear. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I've traveled each and every highway. And more, much more, I did it my way." Who's saying that? I've got a couple different answers. Now, I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know if it was Sinatra or Elvis who did it first, because I'm not really in. And another thing I can't do is take music from my own generation and quote it. It usually doesn't work out very well in services. So I have to go back to some of your guys' generations. Ken?
Sinatra recorded it, and then Elvis did it by Paul Anka.
Yeah, let's see if we can hear it. Michael, you got it up? Let's see. We're checking the there it is. We play a lot of Elvis in this church, by the way. Do you guys know the song now? Yeah.
So I face.
Yes. It's a beautiful song, right? The motto of the song, or the tagline, the thing that's repeated most often in this song is, "I did it my way." And maybe you want to say that is just an American motto. I did it my way. Right? We can go ahead and bring it down, Michael. I did it my way. And it's definitely the way of the world. And I looked at this psalm, and the psalm that we're looking at in Psalm chapter 1 presents life as a path. You can go one direction, or you can go the other. And I think, although Elvis might say that he did it his own way, I think what we describe that second path as people who live life their own way. And although they think they're being individualistic in it, if you look at the overall manner and the way somebody who lives life their own way lives, it's very similar. So the psalm shows a path, and it talks about a blessed path. And if you do these types of things and don't do these types of things, then you're going to experience blessing and happiness. Or you could take the other way. He says it's a path that leads to destruction, right? It's an ungodly path, the way of mockers and the way of sinners. Let's go ahead and just read. It's only 6 verses. So let's go ahead and just read the whole psalm together, and then we're going to kind of break it down. Here's what it says. "Blessed is the one who does not walk in the steps with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Not so with the wicked. They are like chaff that the wind blows away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction." So there's the way of the righteous, and there's the way of the wicked. I like to describe it as I was considering it. You could do it God's way, or you could do it my way, your own way, right? And the promise of this verse is that if you do it God's way, it's going to lead to a life that is fruitful and fulfilling, and will be able to overcome whatever pressures in life might come your way, right? Or you could go about your own way. And the reason it leads to destruction is because you're going about it your own way, and there's only one way to life, right? It's through that narrow gate. In fact, one person that picks up on this idea of life being a choice between two directions is Jesus, right? When he's talking from the Sermon on the Mount, he presents life in two ways, right? Store your treasure on earth or treasure in heaven, right? Seek first his kingdom. And he's describing life, picking two ways, and then he describes it as two gates in Matthew chapter 7. I want you to see how Jesus describes it. It's very similar to what we read in the book of Psalms. In Matthew chapter 7, verses 13, it says, "Enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction. And many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." See, the reason I'm quoting from Jesus, and I could quote from other people too, is to show that the Bible presents life as a choice. You can go God's way, a way that leads to blessing, or you could go my own way, with your own path. Pick it. And the promise there is that it leads to destruction. And the challenge in this sermon, I think, is going to be for you to consider what path of life you're on. Which direction are you going? And the wonderful thing about God is you can always change directions, right? Like maybe you might be going down a path that is your way, but you want to go God's way. You can always change directions. Perhaps that's going to be your challenge tonight as you consider what is God's way. You might want to say, am I doing these types of things, right? I lost some kids when I was taking them to Skunk Harbor. They went the wrong way. But modern technology is a great thing. I got a hold of them on the phone, and they changed directions, and we met back up in the place that we were supposed to be. So although the Bible presents life as a choice, two options, you can go God's way or your own way, it also tells you that there is a way that you can repent, you can turn and go towards God, go back his way. So that's what this sermon's going to be about. And my first point is this: like a well-watered tree, a person who follows God's path flourishes. And you can write that down if you're someone who takes notes. Like a well-watered tree, the person who follows God's path flourishes. It's the promise of the first part of this text. In fact, verse 1, if you're reading it, just says, "Blessed is the one," and that term means happy. And it's this like, if you want to describe it this way, you could think that it is a sign on the path. You can follow this path. This is the blessed way. And that's the direction you want to go. And then it tells us, what that looks like. Blessed is the one who does not walk in the steps of the wicked, or stand in the way of the sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers. I think the first thing that should be pointed out is the strong singular pronoun of one. Blessed is the one, right? Because it is in contrast to the many, the wicked, the sinners, the mockers. See, the one is singular and the rest is plural, right? And blessed is the one who does not walk in the steps of the wicked, or stand with the sinners, or sit with the mockers. If I got that right, I should have probably checked my Bible to make sure I got the order right. But the point that I'm making is that sometimes it seems like you are the one against the many, doesn't it? Right? And that's kind of where Jesus was coming at when he, in Matthew, says, wide is the gate that leads to destruction. Man, you have no problem fitting through it, and there is a crowd, right? But narrow is the gate that leads to life. It's constricting. You have to give some things up. You have to loosen the load in order to make it through that gate in the first place. And it seems almost as if you're all alone in it, right? I mean, certainly, that's what it may seem like when you go out into our own culture today. There are many people who, like Elvis, do it their way. And Christians are supposed to be different. Not to say that we don't have individual choice in certain things, but there is a way that God has called us to live, right? And there is a way that God has called us not to live. And that's why he says, blessed is the one, and then he tells us what we do not do, right? It's a negative example. Blessed is the one who does not walk in the steps with the wicked, or stand in the way that the sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, right? It's describing this life that goes down the wrong path. And it's like, who likes Alice in Wonderland? right? I'm a big fan of Alice in Wonderland. We go to Disneyland and you go up through on the car and you go down through the rabbit's hole. It's so much fun, right? But I think that when I read this, it seems almost as if you're going down the rabbit's hole. This is like a progression of a sinful lifestyle, or if you want to say the evolution of sin, because you start out walking and then next thing you know, you're standing, and before you know it, you're sitting, right? And that's how it is when it comes to, in like taking part in worldly things. It starts out just casual conversations. You're walking alongside people. But standing together, that's a little bit more intimate. That's a little bit more, you're face to face, you're talking. And when you're sitting with somebody, you are sharing. Maybe you could use a word that's pretty Christian. You are having communion with those kind of people, right? Like you are sitting with those people. And the Bible is saying, blessed is the one who does not walk, stand, or sit with these ungodly type of people. And, it's one of the harder ways that I think of, living the Christian life. I'm a father of two, and I've tried to raise them to be good Christian boys. And I believe I have, I hope, right? But one of the things that I've had to continually remind myself of, even if I don't say it enough to them, is that the Christian life is worth it. No matter what you have to give up, whatever you're giving up is nothing in comparison to what you'll receive, right? See, if I approached life with my children saying, what it means to be a Christian is don't do these things, they're probably going to do those things. In fact, I know my kids pretty well. They're probably going to do all of those things, right? Because it becomes restrictive. But see, if I can show them that abstaining, that giving up, that not walking, standing, and sitting in these areas is worth it. It's hard because they go to their schools or their work and they see, and they're in a group of people that do it their way. And perhaps you're like them. You go to your work, you go to your social areas, your social circles, and you find people that do it their way. How easy is it to just get comfortable in that and sit down alongside them? But I want you to see first that what you're asked to give up is nothing in comparison to what you gain for being a Christian. It's so worth it, right? Yes, you have to abstain from standing and walking and sitting with mockers, but it's worth it. It's not just about these negative examples of if you want to go about this blessed life, then don't do these things. There's some positive examples. In fact, verse 2 says, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord and who meditates on his law day and night. So if you're looking at this path, you want to live this path that looks like God's way, the first thing you do is you abstain from certain things. You don't walk, you don't stand, you don't sit with people that will pull you down. Instead, you delight in the law of the Lord. Who ever delights in a law book? Any of you guys? Right? I mean, for the book of Psalms, when this was written, the law may be the Pentateuch, right? The first 5 books of the Bible. And maybe you've read through that a couple times, get stuck up in Exodus or Leviticus, and you're like, man, I just delight in this stuff, right? It's kind of a tough concept to get. But Jesus talks like this. He says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. We have to delight in the law of the Lord, right? And I think today when we consider what it is to the law of the Lord, it's beyond the Pentateuch, right? The law of the Lord is shown clearly in the person of Jesus, right? Moses testified about him. And so when we as people, Christians abstain from walking, standing, and sitting, but we delight in the things of God, right? You know what it is to delight? I was thinking of some examples of this. Like, if I delight in a song, I sing it. Do you guys have any songs that you delight in and next thing you know, you're singing them? Right? Now, I'll tell you another one that this is a guilty pleasure, something I probably shouldn't do. But if I can find a show on Netflix that I delight in, I watch it. The problem is that binge watching becomes a problem. And next thing I know, I've spent 2 days watching that show. But why did I do that? Because I delighted in it. And when I delight in something, I invest in that thing. If it's a song, I sing it. If it's a show, I watch it. If it's a book that I love to read, I read it. And the person who wants to live this blessed life will abstain from some things, but they will learn to delight in the things of God. And that is something that we all need to learn to do. Not simply delight in it, but also meditate on it. See, that's what it says in verse 2. But whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on it day and night. For the Christian, meditation has to do with considering, like thinking about something, right? I'll read a passage that points this out. Psalm chapter 143, verse 5 says this, I remember the days of long ago. I meditate on all your works, and I consider what your hands have done. So it's not that like Christian meditation has to do with considering what God has done, thinking about God in his ways. Moses will talk about it and say, talk about these things when you lie down and when you wake up, when you walk down the streets, when you're standing and when you're sitting. You're supposed to meditate on these things. I think one of the harder things to do, because let's be honest, we're busy people, and delighting in God's law or the things of God may not always come naturally, because, we've worked hard all day and we're tired and we want to go home and relax. But I think it's something that, well, Jesus, again, he says, where your treasure is, there your heart is also. And that verse could also be translated, where your investment is, there your heart will be also. When we begin to invest in the things of God, it reshapes our heart, right? Because it becomes habitual. I don't like fruit very much, but I've noticed the more I eat fruit, the more I start to like it, right? And that's what it is to learn to delight in the law of the Lord, is to make it a habit. Make it something that you do habitually. And at first it might be kind of a chore, but before you know it, you'll begin to love it. And when you love it, it'll begin to shape you, right? Like Jesus will say, blessed is the one who not only hears my words, but puts them into practice. When we delight in the law of the Lord, it shapes how we live. We begin to practice it. So the blessed path looks like that. It is sometimes lonely. Blessed is the one. It has to abstain from certain things. Who does not walk, stand, or sit. And it has to go after and delight in the things of God, allowing that to shape you. Right? Here's the promise. It's a beautiful promise. The psalm uses a simile to describe what that life is like. And it says you're a tree. You guys ever feel like trees? I sometimes feel like trees. There's a lot of similarities between people and trees. We're supposed to be fruitful and multiply, that kind of thing. So the Bible has a lot of similarities between trees. But in verse 3, it says what the person who walks this blessed path is like. It says, that person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields fruit in its seasons, and whose leaf does not wither. That person is a tree. You're a tree, right? And that's kind of a beautiful thing, because when we delight in the law of the Lord, streams of living water pour out of it into our lives, helping us and allowing us to be fruitful. I think that's such an important thought, because it is the fact that we abstain from certain things, the fact that we pursue and delight in the law of God, that are like streams pouring into our life. Have you ever seen a tree that doesn't get enough water? Yeah, it gets all crusty on top. Me and January were in a restaurant. We were up in Boise, and there was this tree that was inside the building, which gave me a good idea. I want to put a tree in my house now. More than just on Christmas, by the way, but I want a tree in my house. But it was kind of a cool-looking tree, but if you looked up to the top of it, it was dying. Right? The leaves were all shriveled and dying. And most likely because it didn't get enough of something, enough sunlight or enough water. Most likely water. right? Because they're so busy in the restaurant serving people, they forget to water the trees, right? Anyways, back on topic. I think what it is when it comes to living this blessed life, delighting in the law of the Lord allows living water to stream and to pour inside of us so that we can be fruitful. And I see a lot of Christians, not in front of me, I don't want to assume anything about you, but I know there are a lot of Christians that have some wilted leaves because they're not connected or delighting in the law of the Lord, the things of God. And so if we delight in the things of God, streams of water pour into us, and we become like a tree that's planted near those streams of water, and we produce fruit, and just as important, it says, whose leaves do not wither. You know, I've been to Israel, but it's the temperature, the climate was a lot like what it is here in certain places, right? Higher up in the mountains and lower down, there's different temperatures. But it got hot in some places. And that's important. You need the sun in order for the tree to be fruitful. But also the sun can be dangerous to that plant, can't it? I mean, it is in times of pressure, times of extreme heat, that plant will begin to wither. The promise is that the person who picks the blessed life, the blessed path, who does not do certain things and who delights in the law of the Lord, that person will be taken care of even in the most extreme seasons of life. When the sun is beating down, that tree will still not wither. It won't die because it's connected to the source, the streams of water. Right? That's what that person is like. And the promise is everything that he does prospers. Now, I'm not saying that I'm a health or wealth guy, right? I'm just saying that God works good for all, for those who love him and are called according to his promise. So however your life ends up, the one who chooses this blessed life is going to experience happiness and blessing. That was a lot for my first point, but it's actually the biggest point. So we're going to move on. My second point, it says, like chaff that blows away in the wind, a person who follows their own path is carried off. That's the point. Like chaff that blows away in the wind, the person who follows their own path is carried off. And I just want you to see verse 4 of this psalm. Here's what it says, not so with the wicked. Let's just stop there for a second, because what it's saying is that the blessed path and the wicked path are completely opposites, right? And you could say, not so with the wicked. They're definitely not like a tree that's planted by streams of living water, but it's everything about the righteous path that the wicked path is not, right? For instance, when the text says, blessed is the one who does not walk, stand, or sit, if it's the righteous path or the unrighteous path, your own path, well, it's many people going down that path, not just one. And they do stand, sit, and walk. Walk, stand, and sit. Right? They do all those things. So what I'm saying is all the things that the one who follows God's path abstains from, the one who follows their own path partakes in. And all the things that the one who follows God's path delights in, the one who follows their own path doesn't do any part of that. They're not interested in the law of the Lord. So when he says, not so with the wicked, they're not like a tree. They do walk, stand, and sit in the company of ungodly people, and they don't delight in the law of the Lord. It's not so with the wicked. So you can always tell it. You can always see. They're the polar opposite, right? They are not a tree planted by water, given fruit, and instead they're like chaff that blows away. Do you guys know what chaff is? It is a little tiny piece of a stalk, right? Like on a wheat plant. And in fact, what typically you do, there's different ways of going about this, but one way, like you see Gideon doing this in a hole, so it doesn't make much sense that he does this in a hole, but you have a hard path, and you beat the wheat stalks against the path, and you hope that the wind will come by and blow away all these lighter portions, the chaff. And what'll happen is when the wind blows away the lighter portions, it leaves just the stalk, the grain of the wheat in wherever it's at. There are different ways that happens now, but Chaff is just, well, it has no control. It just blows with the wind, right? And that's when you're talking about a life that is done on your own, the truth is you're just driven by the winds of culture, by the winds of whatever things are happening within your society. You're just following right along, right? You're just going along with the current. And that's when you're talking about the wicked path, it's just chaff. It blows away. Jesus kind of says this same thing when he's talking about people. He talks about the two paths, or the two gates. The wide is the gate and narrow is the road. But then later on in the same text, he talks about, in the same sermon, he talks about somebody who builds their house. So you could build your house on the rock, and then the rains are going to come, and you're going to be fine through the storm. But look at Matthew chapter 7, verse 26. It says this, "But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is a foolish man who has built his house on the sand. The rain came down, the stream rose, the wind blew, and it beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash." That's when you follow your own way. That's what happens with life. It just goes with the current. It's blown in the wind. It's washed away by the sea. I'm not saying that there's no value in every life, but those who live life without God have trouble finding any kind of transcending meaning. Something that goes beyond just the moment in time right now. Not so with the righteous. They're like trees planted by streams of living water. But the wicked, they're like chaff that blows away. More than that, it says they will not stand in judgment. Let's read that, the next verse. In verse 5, "Therefore, the wicked will not stand in judgment, nor the sinners in the assembly of the righteous." This is the first part in the psalm where you start to see that you're not alone. There is an assembly of righteous. At the beginning, it's blessed is the one. But, what you find out is that you're not alone. There's an assembly. And those people who lived a godly life, they abstained from things, they pursued the things that they were supposed to, they get to stand before God with confidence. Not necessarily because they're worthy, because there is no one righteous, not one, but because they have accepted what Christ has done for them. They have entered into that covenant. They are in Christ, and in Christ, they now have life. They can approach God's throne, his judgment seat, with confidence because of what he's accomplished. Not so with the wicked. No, they stand before God and they shriek. They don't get to sit in the assembly of the righteous because they chose to do it their own way. My last point, and I'll make it quick, is God watches over the path of the righteous. See, I think it would be tempting to say that God is leading the wicked to destruction, but it doesn't seem that way. It seems as if they are leading themselves there. God is simply just watching over the path of the righteous. Verse 6, it says this, "For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction." You're choosing to go on whatever path you want to go. If you go along God's path, the righteous path, the path that leads to blessing, the promise is that God is there with you. He's guiding and he's directing you. He's protecting you from seasons of heat. Nothing will wither. But you can go your own way. We all have that choice. You can go your own way. But the destination is always the same. Right? There's a proverb that we like to read. We read it quite a bit, actually. There's a way that seems right unto a man, but in the end it leads to destruction. See, we all have the choice. Which path are you going to go on? Elvis sang about doing it his own way. What about you? Are you going to choose to go about it your own way? There's a promise that goes with that. That way leads to destruction. But you can choose to go and follow God's path. It sometimes is lonely. It requires not doing certain things, but I promise you, whatever you have to give up pales into comparison with what you gain. And You have to learn to delight, to really love the things of God, because it's the things of God that pours into our lives like streams of water, allows us to be fruitful and weather the storms of life. Our leaves will never wither. That's the path that I want to be on, and that's the path that I would encourage you to be on. So